Support Narrative's independent journalism at patreon.com/narrative and check out our podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe and download.
Are we gonna go to the promo, or are we gonna do Deutsche first?
Let's do Deutsche.
We could go to either places. Let's talk about Deutsche.
Greg had an amazing article that he wrote today. So good.
Let's talk about Deutsche while I find the promo. Go ahead.
Deutsche's bad. I don't know if you're just figuring this out, but they Deutsche bad. They there's that great book. What is it called? Now the name escapes me. Which goes into the history of the bank and how they were basically the bank of choice of the Third Reich, involved in all the laundering of money and the stealing of the Jewish fortunes and this, just bad stuff. And they kind of rehabilitated maybe slightly after that. And then the Americans started to come into the investment banking arm of it in the late 90s, early aughts, and brought in their culture. And the best way that the culture can be described is that none of the Americans knew how to pronounce it, and they just called it douche bank because they're douche bros, and they're like dumb. So they were pushing this, and this, but Deutsche has been fined in the last 12 years, $11 billion, which is almost $1 billion a year in fines for their fuckery. I mean, they helped exacerbate the crisis of 2008, which almost destroyed the entire global economy. They got fined for that. They were farting around with the LIBOR rates and trying to manipulate that. They got fined for that. They got fined for doing business with countries and people on various U.S. sanctions lists. They got fined for that. And this week they got fined for all the Epstein stuff because a lot of his transactions were suspicious and they did not flag them. They allowed them to happen anyway. So they got fined for that. And you add it all up and it's close to $11 billion. And
wow.
If you think about
such a large number,
they're willing to pay the goddamn fines. So if they're willing to pay $1 billion a year and just write it off in fines, how much money are they making?
Barely a dent.
How much money are they making from these underworld people? Remember the underworld global economy is what, $2.5 trillion, something like that?
Is that right? It's 2.5 trillion.
It's larger. It's larger than the gross domestic product of every country other than the United States, Japan, and what's the third country? And China.
Wow.
Every other larger than every other country on the list.
That's what we can see, Greg. That's what we can see and estimate. It's
and it might be greater. Who the hell knows?
It might be. When you think about the second economy, it's important to remember it's never had a recession. It's never been taxed.
It's recession proof.
It's recession proof. It's tax proof. It's an entire system built on vice.
It's a really interesting fantasy. And it takes, people don't realize that economy does not fund anything that you or I need in our lives. It's, we don't get schools and we don't get roads built by any money from
we get
the
social
underworld.
Media.
Yeah, we get people stealing our data.
We get the Patriots and the points, but
it's worse than that. It's used when it runs out of money, they get new fictitious money that they launder, that they get out of an official source, and then they launder it back in. And that is all used to make us poorer per hour, to claw back the gains of the 20th century of the working class, right? That was the great economic miracle of the United States, which beat the Soviets. And they're like, we're gonna drag you back down with your own capitalism. And
exactly. And now you're seeing that gap between the super wealthy and the middle class getting wider and wider to the point where it'll never reclaim itself, will never be able to reverse itself. And so we're sort of either heading into this endless widening of the wealth gap, or something big is going to happen, like a major revolution or a complete crackdown of this entire underworld system, this entire second economy.
Well,
there's ways to.
Let's slow it down.
Slow me down.
Let's slow you down.
Yeah.
So let's do the promo.
That's your line, LB.
Yeah.
What are we going into? What am I doing? Am I driving?
You're driving. You're driving.
Oh, okay. All right.
Here comes Greg. Oh my.
That's what the G
Greg.
stand for.
That's no moon.
Ta-da.
Okay, this is fun. We're just having fun. We're having fun, everybody, because that's important, and it's important to be silly and stupid.
I was worried about you,
especially
Eric.
When you're old and you can't find your glasses or your headphones, right? Okay, so here's here's what we've been talking about behind the scenes. Oh, we're all frozen. Okay,
Are you?
okay?
Oh no, I can see you. Keep going.
So, we're kind of at this weird place. And it's a transitional place, I think, for folks like us who all, none of us knew each other or even really of each other until 2017 when we started, I would say around spring of 2017. Eric a little earlier, when everyone just started going, okay, I have a little bit of information here. I have a little bit of information over here. I had a very specific personal experience. It was that feeling, the blind people feeling the elephant metaphor. We knew there was something going on here with this presidency that had nothing to do with what we were being sold or told. And some of us who had information were really frustrated that, just the very simple story that actually had already been out there and every New Yorker was beside themselves, pulling their hair out that, we couldn't, like, no one's talking about this guy in organized crime. I mean, what the fuck? So this is, you've heard us talk about the underworld on this. You've heard us talk about the second economy, which is the underworld, who's in there, mobsters and spies, and they intersect and they do a lot of dirty shit together. And, but we've never had a chance, even though we were all feeling around the elephant and putting the pieces together, and we got the elephant we got the picture. We pretty much got the picture. Greg wrote his book. I've done my stuff. Eric keeps going. Dev's had narrative. We've been putting it out there, and there's a bunch of folks that do what we do. They really do, and they help us, and they help each other, and we all found each other, and we were like establishing ourselves in this sort of enemy territory of the information war and building this weird force, right? This weird rebellion. And some people are solo flyers. They really can only go alone, and some people like to, watch. And I have to say, we couldn't have even uncovered what we uncovered and continue to uncover without people really following and listening. The space that was created on Twitter specifically of followers just listening and liking and asking questions, and not the folks that were bringing more into it, because there were deep research was going on and people were doing an incredible job digging up all these details to put the elephant together. But also, I don't want to ever take anything away, and everybody who just watched that and was there giving us a very powerful space to listen to it, listening to what we were doing. Don't count out those folks. They, all of life happens in listening. It all happens when you listen. And so we needed those listeners, right? So all that's going on. And now we kind of know what it is. We kind of get it. We get the underworld. We know who's in there. We can walk around in the dark and kind of bump around and feel our way around and, okay, that's this thing and that's this thing, and pull it all together. And professional journalists as well in this mix of figuring it out, doing their stories. You have, with Epstein in particular, you've got Julie K. Brown really focusing on those victims, bringing those stories to the forefront. Zev really focusing on the money, really focusing on the financial scams, and the arms dealing, bringing that to the forefront. So there is a collective, because it's even around this one particular story and this one particular case of folks being able to really either collaborate or just, watch what one another are doing and keep going after this. So if you think about it in this metaphor of the Death Star, this is sort of the metaphor we've been talking about behind the scenes, and not stupid old Brad Parscale's Death Star. I don't know what that guy is, so dumb, Mr. Website Builder. Okay, but I'm talking about the actual underworld, right? This thing that when we didn't realize it was a weapon, and we didn't realize that weapon was aimed at us, at democracy, until we could really put the pieces together. And now we're seeing it. We see what this is. And there's a chance for everybody to see what it is. It's like this, the underworld exists in the dark, right? And it uses our light to move its shadows around. Right? That's my saying for it. I think that's the best way to think about it. So it never has to come out of the shadows, but it definitely uses us to do it, uses our light. So we've gotten close enough to the scene that we realize that's not a fucking moon, man. This thing is out to destroy us. It's now weaponized and out to destroy us. And we're approaching it, and I feel like there's a lot of people who think that they're Luke Skywalker and they want to be Luke Skywalker. And let me tell you, you're not Luke Skywalker. You're not Luke Skywalker. But we do need that. We have one shot at this. We need the luck of the universe at our fingertips. All the planets have to align. A little fighter plane has to get down in this little thing gully, right? And like, oh my God, the amount of energy it's going to take to just be so focused to get two little phaser things down the hole to blow up the fucking Death Star. That's actually the moment we're in with this Ghislaine case, this Jeffrey Epstein case. This is a turn the floodlights on moment. I'm mixing my metaphors, but who fucking cares? This is a turn the floodlights on moment for everybody to be able to see what's fucking under there and how sinister it is and who's in it and how much money is in it and how it has its hooks into us. This is our chance. This is our chance, not just me doing my research and putting it out there or us being on narrative and Eric trying to, that and Greg writing his articles. This is really a chance for everybody to see what this thing is and how dangerous it is. It's the biggest threat we're facing right now. This case is an opportunity to turn on those floodlights. Audrey Strauss is Luke Skywalker. That's who Luke Skywalker is. And she's got a shot right now. And what I'm watching happening You mean
this Audrey Strauss? This Audrey Strauss is Luke.
There she is! That's so great. I love her. Okay, so she's got a shot, right? She's got to take the shot. So this is where Greg's going to come in with who we all are and who we everybody thinks they're this solo player that's going to cut you, right? No, right? And right now I'm watching professional journalists. I'm watching people in the sphere of doing research and trying to put information out there, sharpen their fucking elbows and put razor blades on it and hitting at one another. What the fuck are you doing? Do you have any idea how big this thing is? You're okay. Everyone's going to get their credit. There's going to be no shortage of opportunities for an exclusive or a breaking story or a piece of the puzzle to clunk down for the whole world to see that's going to get you your fucking Pulitzer. Calm the fuck down. This is not when we put razor blades on our elbows and go after each other. This is when we lock elbows and come together, because who are we? Greg, who are we?
We're Han Collective. That's what we are.
Yes!
We're Ewoks.
The what collective?
We're Han Solo.
Collective. There is no Han
We're
Solo.
Han Collective.
Stop being solo.
I thought you said something else. Sorry. It's Han, as in Han Solo. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're not Han Solo. We're Han Collective. And the purpose of this whole enterprise is to get rid of the bad guys. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to blow up the Death Star. We're not trying to take a bow or get any
Right.
I can only speak for myself, but the reason to get involved with this is, people ask that question, if I was in Germany in 1930s, what would I be like? And the answer is you have to do every goddamn thing you can to make sure that the Nazis don't achieve power. Mm-hmm. And years from now, you want to be able to say what happened when Trump was there and these guys were doing this. And you want to be able to say, I did everything that I could to stop it and to make it go away. And that's what everybody's got to do now, all of us. That's the goal. That's the objective. And if we are not successful in getting rid of Trump and the underlying forces that enable and gird him, it's all for naught. This thing is it's like a weed that grows in a dandelion, and Trump is only the little flower on the top. And the Republicans in Congress that support him are just the stalk. We got to pull this shit up by the root, or it's just going to keep growing back in some other
and we
form.
have a chance to see it. We really have a chance to see it. Now, I just want to say, while we were all talking, Donald Trump just commuted Roger Stone's sentence.
Oh, wow. Well, there you go.
To what? To time served?
Let me pull it up.
So this
he hasn't served any time. I don't know.
But he does end up being convicted, right? That was your point yesterday, Eric Garland.
Oh, he's teasing it.
He's teasing it.
Oh, okay, he hasn't actually.
So that's not a helpful headline, CNN. That's not helpful.
No,
that's not helping us turn on the floodlights.
It's actually making us
playing around with this shit.
It's a shiny.
It's normalizing it.
Yeah.
It's normalizing the idea of commuting the sentence of your co-conspirator.
Of your co-conspirators. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a good headline though. Out of the Northern District of California, Yevgeny Nikulin, Russian hacker, has been convicted guilty on all counts of hacking LinkedIn. And
that's a huge event. That's a huge event.
That's
Speaking
huge.
of torpedoes, those are that trial's been going on for 4 months,
torpedoes.
and those are torpedoes going. Because where's that going to go?
Really interesting. That's a really interesting thing that's happening.
Wait, is he the guy that fainted when they came to arrest him in Prague, or did he vomit? I can't remember.
He passed the fuck out. They went
to get him. He drove up to meet his date in this fancy car, and he got out and went into the restaurant, and I don't know who arrested him. Interpol. They were like, "Hi, you're coming with us," and he was like, "Ah!" and he just fainted. Ha ha! Fuck you.
I mean, there's a lot going on.
Everyone's tough behind their computer, right? Everyone's tough. Like, I'm breaking into $1 billion.
Yeah.
Digital warrior.
Until
the FBI agents show up.
It does tell just going back to the Death Star thing. This force that we're fighting is enormous. We're dealing with something that is, crosses many countries, maybe even all countries, has unlimited, it seems, resources, has its weapons, and they're formidable, all targeted directly at the people of the United States, because that is the country where people have freedom and people have democracy, and it's systematically trying to tear the place apart. And we haven't found all the connecting dots, but it's hard to live through the last 3 years and say that this is all coincidence. I mean, there's been a series of things that have happened to the United States, which could not happen just by coincidence, and they've all been enabled by a very useless president who seems to be, aiding and abetting the enemy at all points, whether it's helping China with coronavirus or helping the Taliban or Russia with the Taliban. There's just never-ending examples of how this president has been helping everybody but the American people. And so
it's not even that. It's even worse with him in that I really don't think anyone can argue that there's not intentionality in slaughtering us. I mean, this is, what are we at with our death count now? This was not.
Well, it's
it could all of that. It didn't have to go this way, and frankly, if it didn't go this way, it would have benefited him. So there's something going on here where there is a higher priority for this human being than his own political survival, which everyone can. Oh no, he just then because he's not that much of an. I mean, he is an idiot, but he's not that much of an idiot to not be able to stop killing people. So,
intentionally encourage people to face death and to go towards their deaths by forcing them into situations.
Children, we're going to throw children to the.
Yeah.
So that's not. There's something. I'm sorry. Something's going on here. This human being is destroying us intentionally. There's an intent here. So I think, where is that coming from? What is it? I really can't. I'm sorry. I can't just. I know there's all these diagnoses of him, and his conditions that are self-destructive and sadist, and yes, he's all of those things. But there is a foot on the gas thing going on with him that, to me, those things don't quite explain, because I don't think he's really hurting himself now from being able to stay in and keep his sadism going.
He doesn't think he's going to win anymore. So I think what's really going on is his enablers, whoever they are around the world, are saying, we're going to exact our toll. We're going to take our price regardless. And as we head out, head out the door, we're just going to
kill as many people as possible.
Exactly. Burn down as much as we can.
Burn it down. Yeah. Create a culture war. Get everybody, go for it. Full throttle into the complete destruction of America as much as we can. It's that fucking Death Star. It's pointed at us.
Mm-hmm.
It's pointed at us. That's a planet killer, that thing.
It is.
The way that you describe him, not, politically, obviously it would help him if he recovers from this and does a good job, which he's not done. But it's always been that way. Like,
always.
When he started, if he was smart, if they wanted to actually try to hide what they were doing, when he first came into office, the first thing he should have done was do the Ivanka Trump family medical leave thing. He should have come in and been like, hey, Ivanka wants to do this great family medical leave. And if he did it, all the women who were at the march would have been like, wait a minute, maybe he's okay. And it would have confused everybody and it would have thrown them off the scent. Instead, he's just been pure fucking evil and bad the whole way through. He's never made any remote attempts.
Not savvy enough? Do you really think that this family isn't savvy enough? Yeah, they are savvy enough, right? They are, but they are savvy enough. Choice.
They're throwing down, and they keep going harder and harder and harder and harder, and pushing and pushing and pushing because there's been no consequence. There's never any consequence, and maybe impeachment was.
The consequence is that they will lose power, and but that's less important than our death and destruction. That's
the damage that they've caused is going to take I don't know how long to repair. I mean, just the trust in the institutions, and it's really, I haven't thought about it that much because it's too depressing.
From let's call this group of people the enemies of democracy around the world, and let's say the group of people know that once a democratically elected president with the people's intentions in mind actually gets elected, you would wonder and probably expect that president is going to turn the American weapons against these enemies of democracy, or at least in some form pressure them to react. So what do you want to do on the way out of this attack that you've performed on America is destroy as much as possible to weaken that country as much as you can. So when the counterattack comes, America is weakened, or at least so disoriented that it needs to be pulling itself back together in such a big way.
Yeah, and I want to build on both what all of you are saying. And when Greg says, what would have been much more deadly if they didn't come out with all that Bannon Flynn, like, we're going to get the Joint Chiefs of Staff off the fucking National Security Council. Like, huh? You are? They're going to take the military out of national security? That's neat. If they had come in on no Family Leave Act, they tried to take out the intelligence community and the Joint Chiefs entirely and put on Kushner and Bannon. And that lasted about 31 hours of laughing, and then it was never heard of again.
There are spies in there. Yeah.
And it's like, they're because they were all panicking. Had they thought that out a little bit, they would have smoothed that over, and we'd be in a really terrible, terrible situation. But I think less about Trump, because I think he does whatever he's told that week by whoever his handler or handlers are. Let's think about this from the position of Russia, China, Gulf states, who are really behind this attack. They panicked too. And Zev, when you say, hey, let's say they get rid of this Trump guy, aren't they going to turn their, fucking nuclear arsenal on and all the offensive cyber weapons?
Okay, everybody. Gotta bring it down.
Why?
Take a breath.
Well, because it doesn't. We don't have to go there.
Because they're also dumb. And we have a strength because it can get into a place of fear and panic, and we're very strong.
Good point.
We are, and our system, as flawed as it is, it's kind of working right now. And so, what can we do to keep pushing it forward? What's our participation in that? What's our responsibility as citizens in continuing to push good guy forward, right? It's like,
well, this is why it's so important that we've had such a breakthrough at the Ghislaine Maxwell case, is because No one would have expected that she would be behind bars tonight or for the last week. In a million years, you would not have, I would not have taken the bet that she'd be behind bars. And there she is. And what you were saying earlier on is that this case illuminates so much.
Yes.
Once we look into this case, and some of us have looked deeper than others, but we've already got a bit of a view of what's coming. And when you look, it's a whole network of crime and corruption and money laundering and arms dealing and human trafficking and so much money offshore that we can't even dream of that kind of money. There's just billions, if not trillions and trillions of dollars just hiding away offshore that's been sucked out of our economies, that have been sucked away from people and are just being held by wealthy people for who knows what eventuality down the line. Now, we're not going to get that today.
Stolen. The money has been stolen.
Money. Thank you,
It's
Greg.
stolen. It's our fucking money, and they stole it.
Yeah.
That's what they did.
That money could have fed the world.
I don't know what's it going to take for MAGA
diseases
to realize that this asshole's just stealing the money.
Right.
But he's stealing your money.
Exactly.
Trump is stealing your money. He's stealing
the guys who run your pension fund are stealing your money.
Mitch McConnell, too. Mitch McConnell, I had this whole thing. Let's just, even when now this is kind of a little sidebar, but, it was like, wow. And I think back of okay, how specific are these sort of semantic active measures, right? How far back can we go with some of the, I didn't expect to see that. I love it.
You called? It's Mitch.
He is. Oh, I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna get that guy. I am. I think we gotta. He's vulnerable. I think we could get him out of office.
I think you can. I think we can. I think it could really happen this year.
I think it could happen. Or at least, definitely take the Senate and diminish this horrible human being. But this whole thing about weaponizing that word. It's to make sure we weaponize it, because if you really sit with the word entitlement, what is the word entitlement? It means you're entitled to it. You're entitled to that money. Why? Because it's your fucking money. Mm-hmm. It's our money. We made it. That's why we're entitled to it. It's not
actually
we're entitled to it because it's ours, and we gave it to you because you said, "Here's our social contract." Mm-hmm. Right? Is that your government will work for you, and because it's a great big nation, and there's all these, we've got lots of folks we got to take care of, and it's very diverse, and all these different needs. And from the perch of the federal government, it can make the decisions because we have all the leaders in there in a collective, and as a collective, as a United States, the federal government can make decisions about where that money is best used, but we also are going to keep care of it for you. Mm-hmm. And so that when you aren't earning anymore, it's there for you. Or if you fall into a situation where you need it, it's there for you. Or when there's a medical need, it's there for you. Because it's our money. We're entitled to our own goddamn money. And these fuckers stole it. They stole it. They've always been stealing it, but they really stole it with that tax break. That was the greatest transfer of wealth in human history.
They keep doing it over and over again.
These motherfuckers, right?
Yeah. I mean, it happened in all the crashes. It happened every time you've had one of these big corporations crash.
Yeah.
The 2009 crash was an attempt to steal billions. In fact, they did steal billions and billions out of our economy. And it's not just that the billions are disappearing. There's wars that are on top of that. They sell these weapons into the Middle East, ramp up the tensions over there. So we'll end up going to fight wars in Iraq and Syria that we shouldn't be involved in and wouldn't be fighting if it wasn't for them. And we lose thousands and thousands of civilians' lives, whether they're Europeans or Americans, or they're the people of the Middle East who are desperately trying to create their own existence and be self-determining their own existence. Because these wealthy elites, all they could see is the dollars, and they can see that the control that they have over us. And then in 2016, they layer on top of it all this data manipulation, that they basically follow everything we do and know everything about us to the point that they can absolutely manipulate every aspect of our existence, including who we're going to vote for. And so, when you talk about a Death Star, this is it's a monstrous machine. And the Maxwell case and the Epstein case, because they connect to Donald Trump and because they connect to everything else, allow us a glimpse into that world that we've never seen before. And that's why it is by
not
far
like this.
the
We've never been
crime
able
of the
to see it
century,
like this.
without a doubt, if not more than that.
Yeah. So, let's help each other create a path for the people who are actually the ones in the position and tasked to do it, to take the shot. Fire the phasers, turn on the floodlight, whatever metaphor you want. We have an opportunity here. So,
So go Audrey.
Put your ego down.
Exactly.
Everyone.
We're all on Team
Sit
Audrey
down.
right now. Now,
There she is.
there she is. She's amazing.
Wait, so what you're saying is that we should all just be tweeting about whether or not Kanye West is running for president, right? Should we spend time on that? Should we
I'll talk about
spend an
Kanye.
entire podcast about it? Let's have CNN do a crossfire episode of that, and we could just debate the pros and cons. Wouldn't that be great? Oh, wait. Yeah.
I mean, Kanye. I mean, what can you say?
Somebody right now figure out what's going on with the news, because did Donald commute Roger Stone?
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, he's trying.
Now, can he do it?
Trying,
Because
but
how does he do it, right?
Well-
We don't actually have a situation where he's
Boy,
able to
Roger,
do
I
it
told
because
you
he's a
he'll do
co-conspirator.
anything not to go to prison.
Isn't he a
does not want-
co-conspirator?
He has a fancy life. He has. Talk about Ghislaine's life. I mean, Roger. Oh,
But everyone would burn Roger to the ground. They'd love for him to get shanked in prison the first week and shut his face. What they don't want is everybody else realizing, no one's going to get you out of this.
Look, if he's been commuted, if the sentence has been commuted, I think it's going to be challenged later on because he's a co-conspirator of the president, and therefore, how does he get to do that? How do you pardon a co-conspirator?
It's not a pardon. I mean, that's why he wants to go for the commutation.
I see.
Right. So it's not like they don't want Roger to accept any guilt. They're trying to sort of say he's already paid the price for his crimes.
Right.
But if he were to acknowledge that, and then he did something, or someone said something today. I think it was Roger today or yesterday about, President Trump's going to take care of me because I've been quiet. Because I didn't rat on him. It's like, are there things to rat on, Roger?
Meanwhile, Michael Cohen is in.
Are you saying that he's like in there? What are you doing?
But Michael Cohen is back in jail for because he is ratting on the president. So it's a very clear message to everybody about what's going on.
Yeah.
If you don't.
So Trump's not all powerful? Oh, okay.
Yeah, apparently not. I'm betting that the day he gets out of office, he is going to be indicted and thrown behind bars.
Can we talk about that for 1 second?
Yeah.
Because I feel like the most dangerous time is going to be between Election Day and January 20th. And I feel like once he knows that he's out, once he knows he's lost and there's nothing he can do to save himself, the chances of him actually defecting to some foreign country go up, right? I mean, if I'm him, I'm thinking, okay, my options are I can either stay here and be in court or go to jail, or I can use the last 2 months of my presidency to escape. And I'll just have like some State Department visit in UAE or Saudi Arabia or Russia, and I just won't come home.
I mean, that's very possible. That's very possible.
It's not.
He's going to. We've been talking about him.
It's a greater than zero chance.
The Secret Service measures where he is by the micro inch.
This is his
but what if he
That's
resigns?
why he was freaked out about them.
He could go to Moscow, do a summit, and then resign. And then what? I mean, he's ultimately.
He certainly could. I can't imagine he would go to Russia. I think he'd go to Saudi Arabia or somewhere.
Isn't the worst
UAE? He'd go live with Eric Prince.
The worst.
Go live with Eric Prince.
The much worse risk is that between that election day and his inauguration or the inauguration of the next president, is that they could incite a lot of violence. I mean, they could really push the button, and they could cause a lot of chaos because they have so many operatives here. We're talking about many very, really wealthy and powerful countries that are incentivized to do as much damage as possible, and they will try to do it because there's not a lot of people, trying to stop them right now. That might change in January, but any sort of military confrontation with the people or any sort of excuse to introduce martial law could postpone the inauguration, could challenge the election results, could do all sorts of things, and I think that's also a likely possibility. But hopefully,
it's also. But some of this stuff requires a certain level of energy and thoughtfulness and whatever you want to call it that he does not currently possess.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all he does is sit around and tweet and watch Fox, I think, and golf. I mean, does he do anything? I think I read a report.
No.
That's all he does. So in order to be a real, authoritarian strongman, you have to at least do strongman stuff. And
but he doesn't have to do it. He's got his, he's got the puppet masters pulling all the strings. He just has to react.
At a certain point, though, the puppet masters are going to realize that it's not. He's a sunk asset.
Right.
He's already a sunk asset. So how quickly are they going to jettison him? The key is going to be Fox News.
Mm-hmm.
When Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson turn on him, then it's over. They haven't done it yet, but they have to at some point, right?
Well, Dan Coulter was backing up Mitch McConnell's Democratic rival today. They know it is fucking over. The game's done. They know.
Mm-hmm. They do know, but they can still cause damage out of the, on the way out.
Oh, sure.
And he is going to try to strike a deal. I mean,
guys, what? I mean, there's a pandemic. It's insane. It's so frightening.
Especially where you are.
People are really scared. We don't know if we're going to be able to hold our family members again.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing, and we can't ever forget that. We can't ever forget any of these enablers.
No,
ever.
There could be no.
We have to
no quarter, no mercy.
Every single crime we have to. We've already lifted all these rocks. Imagine the rocks that all this criminality and all this coordination and all this enabling. Imagine the rocks we haven't.
Yeah, I think there's so much
we haven't lifted. And I don't know. It's going to be years. It's going to be years of holding these people to account. I do really appreciate the Lincoln Project and that ad they did of remember these people's names, and we have to. We know who they are, and some of them came in so late, and like a Stefanik, right? That don't even get me started on that one, right? And she hitches her. Hey, you're going to hitch her. You're going to hitch yourself to this wagon now? Maybe you could have done this in 2015 or 2016 and everyone would have understood. But now, all the way in, we're all the way through this. And the person you're hitching yourself to is Jim Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
You're hitching yourself to Jim Jordan, who we know enabled and talk about industrial scale molestation of students in his care. Mm-hmm. He enabled that doctor.
Are we sure that Stefanik is not Devin Nunes in drag? Because I think that.
I know she's a carpetbagger. I know she's a carpetbagger, and I know that. They
look like they could be brother and sister.
Greg, you know too. You know the good people of her district.
Yeah.
Really good people, truly. Mm-hmm. This isn't, and so who's getting that message out? Because it's very difficult to tell what kind of bubbles people are in because everything's so fragmented and insular.
The bubbles.
So we need stuff that goes wide that people can see outside of their bubble, especially on, those kinds of folk, right? Mm-hmm. Especially on the Stefanics of the world.
It's so important that we, focus our energy on getting this money, because for those of us who've had a peek at what this all looks like, it's a terrifying amount of money that should be being spent on people, and these guys are just building their wealth and aggrandizing themselves to the point where they are just creating this sort of faux monarchy around the world, and this mobligarch that is just must be torn down. We cannot have that system in place in a free and democratic United States. If other countries want to do it, fine. But, we need to get our money back. We need to get our kids' futures back, because that's what's being spent. That's what all this debt and deficit is being spent on.
This is where I want people to feel it's not about being hopeful and in denial. It's about looking at, are there things that are working to get that money, right? Are there things happening where we have access to some of that money? They just shut down all those Jersey offshores, right? Mm-hmm. For the UK to go in and get that money, that's big. It's big. There's a lot of money there. That's where it all started. And then there's oh God, I forgot it now. But there's another thing where there's a real opportunity to get money get your hands back into the good guys get back in and say,
the Magnitsky Act is being enforced now.
The China.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
It is, yeah.
For the Uyghurs,
Yeah. So, I mean, we're going to see a lot of that, which is great. We need to see much more of that because, we need to be aggressive on getting that money back because it can't stop with Donald Trump and it won't stop if all we do is get rid of Donald Trump. We need to keep going.
Fear.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the fear that they're not good. That Trump's gone, Biden's there. Okay, we're just going to now continue to do our shit, and it can't be that. What I would like to see is a tribunal where he names another special prosecutor who's a Democrat and a woman and a badass, and just says, "Here, arrest all the fuckers, the fucketeers."
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. And gives them a budget and a broad mandate, and then steps aside and lets them, so it's not connected with the administration. It's an independent entity that's our Death Star of good,
Yeah.
In
South Africa,
the Life Star. I don't know.
Yeah. Sally Yates is a good idea, actually. In South Africa, we did something called the Truth and Reconciliation Committee, which is Desmond Tutu held this thing, and everyone could just go and say what they did. They could confess their crimes. Some people did get prosecuted, but mostly people would just, they acknowledge what they did and moved on. And it was a way of sort of clearing the decks. I don't think that is going to do it for America. I think there's a lot of money that's been stolen and needs to be returned, and a lot of equality that needs to be reinstated. But it's a very good idea. It's a very good idea to reheal the country.
There's a lot of treason.
A little bit of treason going on as well, yeah. But
treason.
Bringing people together and exchanging the reality of what happened and understanding each other's reality as well. You need that in order to build a future together because we're still going to be in the same country. We're still going to have each other here. We can't just throw everybody in jail. We're going to have to throw some in jail, and the rest of us are going to have to keep getting along. So what does that look like? How does that look? And how do we develop a conversation in this country which talks about what we expect going on beyond Trump? I mean, beyond the system, what does it look like? Does it look like the progressive left? Does it look like a moderate middle? What does it look like? Because that's really the kind of stuff we're going to have to try and figure out. Support Narrative's independent journalism at patreon.com/narrative and check out our podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe and download.